Mixed media art can transform everyday objects into stunning decor pieces. Create a one-of-a-kind mixed media masterpiece with this stunning bottle decoration tutorial. Learn how to combine decoupage and air-dry clay techniques to add unique textures and patterns. From preparing the surface to adding the final details. Hello, my crafty friends. I'm Donna from Mason Creations, etc. And welcome to my channel. If you're ready to do this, my friends, let's make a mess. I found this adorable milk bottle at IKEA. I got it years ago and never could figure out what to do with it. I figured it out, so here we go. I'm making some marks a little over an inch all the way around the top because I thought I was going to leave the bottle clear at the very top. The first thing I did was wipe the entire bottle down with an alcohol wipe to remove any dirt, debris, or fingerprints. Now I'm painting my bottle from the marks down with a primer. I'm going to brush on Polyvine's multi-surface lacquer. This is a great primer for any shiny surface, such as glass or ceramic. I'm using the dead flat finish because I want to remove the shine. This will give paint or decoupage glue a great surface to adhere to. Paint won't chip, scratch, or peel. I'm being very careful not to paint over my Sharpie marks. I don't want to set them permanently on the jar. This and all the products you're going to see me use today came from DecoupageNapkins.com, my wonderful sponsors. My crafty friend Melody C requested a mixed media bottle. Here you go, Melody. This video is for you. For best results, I'll let this dry overnight. I used an alcohol wipe to remove my Sharpie marks and then painted the bottle white. I'm using Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color Cotton. Dixie Belle is my favorite chalk paint. It goes on so smooth and creamy and has great coverage. I'm going to be decoupaging a napkin, so the background color needs to be white. I let the paint dry for about 30 minutes and then gave it another coat of paint. Make sure you always paint white or a very light off-white wherever you're going to decoupage rice paper or a napkin. White allows the colors in your images to look more vibrant. Dark colors will make your images look dark and muddy. I'm going to add some gold leaf gilding to the bottom of the bottle and around the neck. I'm using Polyvine metal leaf size to paint a strip about 1/2 inch wide at the bottom and top of the bottle. This is an adhesive for applying gold leaf gilding. It goes on white, dries clear, and very sticky. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes to dry. Now it's time to add all this glorious gold. I'm using Gilding flakes, but this also comes in sheets. You'll get the exact same results with either one. You can get the flakes in some really beautiful color combinations, but for this bottle, I elected to go with just a solid gold. I'm laying the flakes of gold on top of my adhesive and brushing it down with a soft paintbrush. After brushing it down, I use the edge of my brush to scrape off any loose flakes. I also use a stiff brush to scrape off even more of the loose flakes, so I get a nice smooth finish. By now, I guess you've noticed that I ended up painting the white all the way to the top of the bottle. I changed my mind on the design. This bottle started off with a lot of little indecisions, but I'm committed now, so onward we go. DecoupageNapkins.com has such a great selection of napkins that you can purchase one at a time. They carry many other craft supplies such as rice paper, paint, clay, molds, and a great selection of Polyvine products. Over 9,000 products and growing. They are wonderful to work with and will send your order out fast. You'll receive free shipping on orders over $75 and special bonus points for orders over $100. Subscribe to their newsletter by entering your email address and you'll receive 10% off your next order. They are truly your one-stop shop for craft supplies. Make sure you check them out. I'll be leaving links for all the products I use in my description box below. I'm getting my napkin prepped and ready to go. I just love the colors in this napkin. It's perfect for this project. I used one square of this napkin on a seashell, but I still have 3 of them left. I'll be using 2 of them. There are 3 layers to most napkins, but we're only going to use the top layer with the print on it, so I'm removing the other 2 layers. If you delicately scratch the corner of the napkin with your nail, they separate easily. I fussy cut around the 2 butterflies at the bottom of the napkin because they're going to overlap the gold rim at the bottom of the bottle. I don't want to see any of the napkin background on the gold. Now I'm going to use a water brush to remove as much of the white background as I can. A water brush has a cartridge that you fill with water and then brush it on the napkin or rice paper. The water dispenses easily, so this is really convenient. You can find this in my description box below in my favorite tools section, just in case you want to check it out. Water helps the napkin to tear easily. You always want to tear your rice paper or napkin instead of cutting it. A torn edge is much easier to blend than a sharp cut edge. Unless you're doing a fussy cut. A fussy cut is to cut it out like you would a paper doll, removing all of the background, just like I did on the butterflies. The more of the background you can remove at the top and bottom of the design, the easier it's going to be to decoupage. If you have a lot of excess napkin, it will tend to wrinkle. I'm going to show you a way to decoupage a napkin on a curved surface that will have very few wrinkles or bubbles. Where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. It's fun to see what cities and countries you are all watching from. I'm filming from Las Vegas, Nevada in the United States. There's a slight curve at the neck of the bottle. I'm putting in a few tears at the top of the napkin so it'll lay down flat. The pieces will overlap each other instead of causing a wrinkle. I'm going to use Polyvine Heavy Duty Wood Varnish for my decoupage adhesive today. I'm starting in the center front of the bottle. I'm laying the napkin in place and I'm brushing the varnish on top of the napkin in a small section about 2 inches wide. I'm not putting any on the bottle at all. I'm brushing from the center outward in all directions. I'm making sure to overlap all those pieces at the top of the bottle. I'm spraying a small piece of a Ziploc bag with some water. I laid it over top of my napkin and I'm rubbing out the wrinkles and bubbles through the plastic. Each time you remove the plastic from your piece, wipe it off and spray it with water again. Make sure you don't try this without the water or the plastic will stick to your napkin and pull it right off your piece. The water is very important. Better to have more water than not enough. Now I'm moving over to do another section in the exact same manner. You will get very few wrinkles and no bubbles using this method and this product. Polyvine is quick drying, which also helps reduce wrinkles. Now what I've decoupaged is still wet, so I'm not able to lay it on the wet side to work on the opposite side of the bottle. I'm going to stand it upright and brace the hanging piece of napkin that hasn't been decoupaged yet, and let it dry for a few hours before continuing. If I don't brace the loose piece of paper against the bottle, it'll tear off because it's adjacent to the wet part of the napkin. I just leaned my cup cradle against it and that worked perfectly. I get asked about this cup cradle a lot. I love this anytime I'm working on something round. It's silicone and keeps your projects from rolling away. I'll link it in my description box below in case you want to check it out. It's a game changer. Okay, it's been several hours and it's dry now, so I can safely roll it over and continue with the other side. I did all the same steps as I did on the opposite side. I know you guys are asking yourself, wait, she always uses decorator's varnish. Why is she changing? I love the decorator's varnish for decoupaging with rice paper, but I find I get less wrinkles with a napkin when I use the heavy-duty wood varnish. It's quite a bit thinner, so you don't end up putting a lot of product on your piece, which helps reduce wrinkles. In fact, you'll find the method I'm showing you today greatly reduces all wrinkles and bubbles. For any of you that hate wrinkles, this is going to be the method for you. Give it a try and let me know what you think about this method of decoupage. I test all the products that I recommend in my videos. I won't recommend anything that I haven't used myself and prefer. If I'm recommending it, you can bet it's a great product. Each product will be listed in my description box below and will have a blue link to make it easy for you to find. Any of the links I provide are safe for you to click on. I let my bottle dry for several hours, and now I'm sealing it with a coat of heavy-duty wood varnish. Because I used Polyvine as my decoupage adhesive, adding a coat of varnish over the napkin isn't going to reactivate my underlayer and make it wrinkle. This is a common problem when using decoupage glue, such as Mod Podge, because it takes 28 days to completely dry and cure. I'll let this dry for 1 hour and then I'm going to give it a quick sanding in preparation for the next layer. My crafty friend Cindy is struggling as to when she should use clay molds on a project. Here you go, Cindy. This is an example of how I decide when to use clay embellishments. Sometimes I plan it from the very beginning, but sometimes it happens like this. I thought this bottle looked a little unfinished at this point and wasn't really sure what I wanted to do next. I ended up going through all my molds, and there are so many. I found one that had some similar flowers and leaves as the napkin. This mold is called Aviary. I'm using DOS clay to make some embellishments to separate the gold from the white on the bottle. After looking at the bottle, I felt that it needed something at that line, and what better than some clay embellishments? I put the clay in the mold, cut off the excess with a palette knife, smoothed it out with some water, and then put it in the freezer for at least 20 minutes. If you want to see a video on exactly how to work with air dry clay, click the banner in the top right corner of your screen. I'll also leave you a link for this video in my description box below. Fresh out of the freezer, and look how easy it comes out of the mold. Now I'm going to glue the clay pieces to the bottle while the clay is still wet, so I can form it to the curve of the bottle. I'm using tacky glue. This is my favorite for gluing wet clay. I dip my brush in some water, which makes the glue a little easier to spread. I'm laying it down right on the edge where the gold meets the white, around the neck of the bottle and at the bottom. I'm doing this in sections and gluing the clay right after I unmold it, then making the next set and putting them in the freezer. You may have to let it set for just a few minutes after you remove it from the mold. It depends on how frozen you let it get. You need it to be able to bend around the curve. It does thaw fast though. I made sure not to cover those 2 butterflies at the bottom with the clay. This will need to dry overnight. I'll be back in the morning for the next step. Now I'm going to beautify those clay embellishments by adding some gilding to them as well. So I'm adding more of the metal leaf size to all the clay embellishments. I'm making sure I get the adhesive into all the little cracks and crevices and on all the edges. If you're enjoying this video, please let me know by hitting that like button. And why not share this with a friend? Thanks for doing that. You won't want to miss any of the new projects coming up, so don't forget to subscribe. As an afterthought, I ended up putting a cluster of flowers on the top of the lid. I'm adding the adhesive to that as well. I let that dry for about 20 minutes until it was sticky. And now I'm going to add the gold gilding to all my clay embellishments. Okay, Shirley, my messy friend, it's time to make another mess. You guys, make sure you lay paper down when you're doing this. You want to be able to just roll it up and throw it away when you're done. When I was adding the adhesive, I was very careful not to get any of it on the white part of the bottle. I added it to the edge very carefully. On the gold side, it didn't matter if it overlapped a little bit. I'm working on some great spring projects right now. A lot of them are requests that I'm excited to be making. I love planning projects around your requests. Just please be patient. I get quite a few of them, and I get the projects out as quickly as I can. I love hearing about what you'd like to see, so keep those requests coming. When adding your gold, if you notice that you missed a few spots when applying your adhesive, no problem at all. I missed an entire leaf. Just add some more glue in those spots, let it dry, and then add more gilding flakes. It'll blend right in. I misted a washcloth with a little bit of water, so it was damp and not wet. I'm wiping off the bottle to make sure there are no little tiny pieces of gold clinging anywhere. I'm going to add another coat of heavy-duty wood varnish. I'm going to be doing some antiquing, and I'll need a gloss finish for the antiquing process. I had to do this in sections and let it dry, so I'd have somewhere to hold it while adding the varnish. I'm going to let this dry for an hour before moving on to the antiquing. I'm going to make my own antique using some glazing medium and a little bit of paint. I didn't measure, but I used about a teaspoon of the glazing medium in a little cup with just a touch of paint. I mixed it up thoroughly and then sprayed the tiniest bit of water. I'm going to brush this on and then wipe it off the surface with a dry, soft cloth. The antique will remain in all the cracks and crevices, giving the clay embellishments some depth and dimension. This is the reason for the coat of varnish before antiquing. Without the gloss, the antique would just grab onto the paint instead of wiping off. Make sure you always put a coat of either gloss or satin before you add any type of antique. With the glazing medium, you can make antique out of any color of paint. You can paint your piece white and then antique it in purple or blue or any other color. You can really have some fun with this. The glazing medium helps to keep your paint from drying too fast, which gives you a longer workable time. I get a lot of questions about how I clean my brushes after all the products I'm using. Everything you've seen me use today is water-based, so they will all clean up with soap and water. I use Speedball pink soap for brushes. I'll leave you a link in my description box below. It works really well. It seems to remove paint you didn't even know was still in your brush. I think you'll like it. I let the antique dry for several hours, and now I'm adding some heavy-duty wood varnish over all my antiquing to protect it. 2 or 3 coats of this gives you a beautiful shine that's moisture and heat resistant as well as UV resistant and food safe. This works wonderful on any painted or decoupage surface or a shiny surface that has been coated with Polyvine multi-surface lacquer. I let that dry for an hour between each coat and an hour after the final coat. I've had a few people ask me if this varnish has a strong smell. Nope, it does not. It's water-based, so there are no harmful fumes at all. It's only the solvent-based varnishes that have any fumes. I'm giving the area where I decoupaged a light sanding and wiped off the dust. Sanding between your coats of varnish gives you a spectacular, flawless shine. Now I'm adding my final coat of varnish to the entire bottle. And again, I'll need to do this in sections, so I have somewhere to hold the bottle while painting. For my final coat, I'm using a brush made by Polyvine to use with their varnishes. It eliminates brush strokes and helps the varnish to self-level. This will give you a glass-like shine. You can keep going and add as many coats as you want to achieve the level of shine you'd like to see. The mechanism on the bottle lid is just a metal color, but this bottle is all in gold, so I need to change that to gold as well. I'm using redesigned Decor wax in the color Eternal. I'm going to paint it on with a brush. This stuff is so versatile. You can use it as a rub and apply it with your finger. You can use a sponge or you can use a brush. If you go to purchase this and it says out of stock, just click the Notify Me button and you'll get an email just as soon as it comes in. I know it's been reordered and expected to be back in stock shortly. This will need to dry overnight, and then everything about this bottle will be a beautiful gold. Don't forget, all of the wonderful products I'm using today can be found at my favorite place for craft supplies, DecoupageNapkins.com. And I'll leave you links in my description box below. I put together a playlist of some other tutorials you may enjoy. Click the picture on the right to be taken directly to that playlist. I'm so happy you were here with me today, and thanks so much for watching. I can't wait to see you all next week. I'm working on a new project with you in mind. You can subscribe by clicking my picture in the top right corner.